using roles, privileges, and access rights. If a user has parent-child account read privilege, this user can read all accounts that are owned by users in their business unit and all accounts owned by any user in a business unit subordinate to the business unit that they're in. On the other hand, if a user has business unit account read privilege, this user can only read accounts owned within the same business unit as they are assigned to. And finally, if a user has user account read privilege, this user can read only accounts that he or she owns or accounts that are shared with him or her. There's much more on this topic in the CRM SDK under how role-based security can be used to control access to entities in Microsoft CRM. So here's an example of a security role. I'll warn you now that the security roles are very, very busy entities since they have to give you the ability to grant privileges related to 480 plus different things. They're broken up into tabs that select groups of entities or functions, from core records to marketing, to sales, to service, to business management, service management, customization, and custom entities. If you'll notice, if we look at the entities at the top, that the privileges related to entities are very specific. Again, create, read, write, delete, append to, assign, and share. Whereas non-entity privileges are basically organizational or none for yes or no. It's either on or off. Are you able to act on behalf of another user? Can you assign a manager to a user? Are you allowed to perform bulk edit on records? And so on. So this is the difference between all of the privileges related to each kind of entity versus the on or off for miscellaneous privileges and the like. And notice at the bottom, whenever we're working in a security role, that the key is displayed to remind you of what your options are. Another quick trick to be able to work with security roles is to recognize that if I want to alter everything on a line, I can click on that particular header for the particular row. Or if I want to alter everything in a column, that if I click here, it will alter all of the settings in the row. It's a very nice way to quickly configure a security role. Let's go ahead and take a look at role customization and creation in the interface. CRM security roles are accessed from the Settings menu in the Administration option. We come down and click on Security Roles. As you can see, there's a list of 14 security roles in place here. And if I go in and pull a review on one, let's pick one that's sort of the middle of the tier. This is for a sales manager. Now, a sales manager would need access to all the records within their business unit of the people that work for them, and specifically records related to sales, but maybe not those of service. So if we take a look through the process, we can see that the sales manager has an awful lot of organizational access for reading information, but when it comes to creating information, they can only create records that are associated with the business unit users that they belong to. In other words, a business unit create authority gives me the ability to create a record that is owned by myself or anyone else in my business unit. On the other hand, if I was to create a mail merge template which has only user access level, that means I can create mail merge templates, but I can only create them as myself being the owner. And if you'll notice in this particular case, as we move across, all of the access is about whether or not I have been the person that creates it. So this is all user access here. On the other hand, when I go and look at an opportunity, I'm able to create opportunities that belong to anyone who is in my business unit. And I'm able to read all opportunities in all business units. So these are examples. From a customization standpoint, when we start working on these types of things, one of the things that we can do is to do bulk maintenance on a bunch of dots at once. So if we want to set the access levels for customer relationship all at once, instead of clicking on an individual cell and getting it to be a pie, I can click on the row, and this now moves everything forward one click. And multiple clicks will then move these on through other choices and then ultimately rotate back down to 0. So this is how you maintain the spots, so to speak, that you'll be seeing when you work with security roles. And as we work on through, if we go strictly to sales, then here are the records that are considered to be sales in nature. And as you can see, there's a fair amount of accessibility here, whereas in marketing, we also have information because a sales manager would need to see information provided by marketing, but maybe less so from service. Typically, though, we tend to let managers do quite a bit. So as you can see, this changes very dramatically, and there's a lot of information stored here. Also, we can configure what users are allowed to customize. And then finally, as we create custom entities within the system, the default is to provide no access to anyone. And we must go in and maintain the security roles for these new custom entities that we have created. This is a normal problem when you're doing development, where you develop something and create all of the entity and forms and everything that you need and forget to assign the security roles to the appropriate people to have access to these new entities. So while we can see them, because as administrators or customizers, we will see all custom entities, the rest of the security roles are not designed to see it unless we explicitly do so. Also, if I want to change a column, I can click on the column to bring it through its section as well. So remember, the two bulk editing formats are to click on the row to move the row through one click at a time, or a column to change out the column. Since I prefer not to grant delete authority to anyone for anything, this is a common customization that I make. If I want to, I can create my own custom roles. And custom roles can be created by copying an existing role, and by simply clicking on copy here, I can create a new role. And now call this Sales Manager Copy. And this is creating this role within the same business unit as the role that I'm currently editing. More about that in the next few slides. Basically, security roles only apply to a single business unit, but there is something called inheritance that we will get to shortly. So now if I save and close, I have now created a new custom role by basing it off of the Sales Manager. I've decided not to make any of the changes, so I'm going to leave this page alone. Now the reason for that, by the way, is that I always like to have a good reference for the out-of-box security roles. So I tend never to make any customizations to those roles other than to eliminate all delete capability from all roles in the system. On the other hand, I can use them as a basis to create new copies and work from there. The other way of creating a security role is just to click New. The problem with this is that the security roles are somewhat complicated, and it can take significant time to go ahead and create one from scratch. For instance, if I want to do, for core records, I want to provide create authority for the end user, and I want to be able to provide read authority for business unit level, and write only for end user, no delete access, append, and append to, assign, and share. And as you can see, I've been able to accomplish quite a bit in a few clicks. The problem is that some of the privileges that you need can be somewhat tricky to understand, and certainly beyond the scope of a 1-hour video. But in any case, it's my preference to take an existing out-of-box role and use that as a basis for something that I want to change. We'll save and close this role, but I have not given it a name. And save and close. And that's how you create and copy roles within a business unit. Security roles, business units, and inheritance. It's important to understand that all security roles are created within a single business unit, and users can only be assigned a role from the business unit that they're assigned to. Business unit do inherit roles from grandparents and parents in the business unit hierarchy, i.e., if I add a security role to the root business unit, all business units underneath that in the hierarchy, which for the root business unit would be all business units, are inherited to each one of the business units underneath the root. An inherited role cannot be modified or deleted. That can only be done with the original parent role back up in the root business unit or whatever business unit you created it higher in the hierarchy. But changes to the parent role are immediately applied to all the inherited roles. Inherited roles are helpful because they can be assigned to users in that business unit. They also can be copied to create a new role at any level in the hierarchy beneath them. But if I copy a role, I have to copy the inherited role into a new role stored within that same business unit that I want to assign to a particular user. So let's take a look at how we would copy a role to a different business unit. And this is actually a misnomer, because what we're really going to do is we're going to take a role that's created at the root and copy an inherited version of that role within a subordinate business unit. So here we are in our demonstration environment looking at security roles. And if you'll notice, the business unit is selected in the drop-down box at the top right. The default is always the root business unit when we first get in. Since Sales Demo is the name of this organization, that's also the name of the root business unit. However, I can take these roles, which have all been created at the Sales Demo level, and see the inherited roles of a child business unit that I have created under Sales Demo. As you can see, all the 16 roles that were created up in the Sales Demo business unit have been inherited down here within the Sales Demo child business unit. Now, it's important to note that there's no obvious sign that these are inherited roles until you actually open up the role. So let's take a look at what an inherited role looks like. This is the sales manager role, which is inherited from the root. Because it's inherited, you will see this yellow bar going across the top stating it cannot be updated or modified. Also, you'll notice that there is no update button on this particular form. I can copy this role, but I cannot modify it. So now let's contrast that by taking a look at the Sales Manager copy. This should be a base role and is not inherited, right? Sorry, that's wrong. The reason is that I created the Sales Manager copy in the root business unit. So it is also inherited in the business unit that I'm currently working within. So if I want to create a custom role within a particular business unit and I want to copy that role from another role, then I can use inherited roles as a way of being able to create a custom role at a lower level. So now, because we are still working in the Sales Demo child, and this is an inherited role, I'm going to copy this role, and we're going to call this So now I've created a new role, which I can customize as needed, and it is residing in the Sales Demo child business unit. So I can make my changes as needed, and I can save and close. I will close the role that I copied, and now you'll see that under the business unit Sales Demo Child, I now have a custom role, which if I open it does not give me the yellow bar because it is native to this business unit and not inherited. On the other hand, if I change my business unit back up to Sales Demo, which is the root, you'll see that that role does not exist there because inheritance only works from the top down. Remember, I must assign a role to a user from the same business unit that they are a part of.